I remember falling deeply in love with my boss at the time.
Oh my God.
I truly, truly believed that these people were the most gorgeous, Adonis-like creatures to ever grace the planet. And it's only with hindsight that I'm like, oh my God. He left his passport or something lying about. So he was 45.
No.
So I was 17. And he was, that's borderline grooming, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dad, I'm having a baby. And my dad's like, oh, darling, you've had the baby. And I'm like, this is another one. I don't think I will ever allow myself to be in a situation where anybody, man or woman, can ever have that much of an impact on my life, where I can go from I'm a millionaire to having to register myself and 3 children as homeless.
Yeah. Welcome to Under the Sheets with me, Tatiana Ashbourne, and all my friends.
Laugh about it. Give it to me, baby. Learn about it. Love it or hate it. Let's do it. Under the Sheets with Tatiana Ashbourne and friends.
Welcome to Under the Sheets with Tatiana Ashbourne and friends, brought to you by Dirty Talk. I'm Tatiana Ashbourne, and this is my friend. This is Ellie McKay, everybody. Woo! Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I don't think I've ever been so comfortable and as terrified to a feature on a podcast ever. So yeah,
it does feel pretty good. But yeah, I feel nervous as well because you're someone big. You're doing so well. Mother of 3, podcaster, property investor, and what is the role that feels most defining for you right now?
Oh, well, I'm not a property investor anymore. I'm a reformed property investor.
Okay.
Mum of 3, podcaster, and just rebuilding my life. Mm-hmm. Currently just left a 20-year relationship. It's been a very eventful 18 months, but yeah, things are really exciting at the moment, and I'm really happy to be here.
That's so good. And how do you feel from being in a 20-year marriage? Are you trying to find your feet on who you are as a person since that?
Yeah, it's really strange.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 22 years old, and I know I don't look at Tatiana, but I'm 20 years older than you. So last time I dated, I was like 21.
Yeah,
it was a very different time. There wasn't really online dating. Well, online dating had just started, but it was very much just for weirdos. It wasn't a socially acceptable thing. I was very much into partying, going out drinking, clubbing. So it was quite easy to meet people within that kind of environment. But when you're in your early 20s, you're very different. Obviously now I'm a mother of 3, like you just said. And we change a lot over the years, let alone the decades. So it takes time, I think, when you leave a long-term relationship to rediscover yourself and find out who you are, what you like. And I don't just mean sexually, but I just mean as a person. Because when your lives are so intertwined, I think most people make compromises, and not necessarily in a bad way, but you adapt and you mold and you sort of change together. And then all of a sudden, when you're single and you're on your own and you're solely responsible for your own life, it definitely takes time to strip back who you are and not necessarily rediscover, but discover for the first time almost who you are. Because I'm not trying to rediscover who I was at 21. I'm trying to find out who I am now as a completely different version of me at 42. Yeah,
which is insane. But I think also there's something quite magical in that, because you've learnt so much along the way. So right now you'll be in a much better position than a lot of people that are sticking in a relationship because they feel comfortable and that's just content with it, rather than wanting to achieve more and think that they deserve more, from the relationship they're possibly in.
It's so true. And a lot of people say that youth is wasted on the young, but I completely disagree with that, because I think for women in particular, certainly speaking for myself, that there's a confidence that only comes with age.
Yeah.
And you said to me last night, how do you feel about going out dating again? Are you nervous? Because, spoiler alert, I've not actually been on any dates yet. I'm not in another relationship yet. But actually, no, I feel more confident than I ever have been.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, back at age sort of 21, 22, when I was last on the dating scene, a lot of it was quite alcohol orientated.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably quite common for people to want to go and have a glass of wine or a drink for a bit of Dutch courage before they go into nerve-wracking situations. I'm alcohol free now. I made the decision to, I'm not saying everyone should to do that, but for me personally, I'm just a lot more health conscious. And at the start of the year, just decided I was going to completely knock it on the head. So not only am I kind of going back into the dating arena, if you like, for the first time, but I'm doing that without alcohol. And I think it really surprises people that I'm not nervous, to the point where so many people are like, really, you're not nervous? I'm thinking, God, like, should I be more nervous? But I think I'm just very confident in who I am and what I want and what I'm willing to accept.
Yeah, and which you wish everyone felt when they're young. You hope that young people would also feel like that to go out on a date. Because I know I've always been terrified of dating. What excites you the most about going on the date?
Well, you know what? I just think the future is blank for all of us. So it's an opportunity to create the life that you want, and there's no rules. And I don't think you necessarily realise how unhappy you are in a situation until you fully exit it. But in a lot of respects, I've had quite a traumatic 18 months, as you know, with various things, with the divorce and the collapse of the business and financial challenges. It's been a really tough ride.
Yeah.
But in terms of the self-discovery, I've never felt happier than I do right now. And it's I suppose for me, the thing I'm looking forward to is the excitement of not knowing what's going to come. And I probably shouldn't say this, but when I was married, I always... this is how we start. Like you said before, like, let me know if you want to edit it out. I'm going, no, it'll be fine. And you won't need to take this out. But I did always think that it was really quite sad that I was never going to get to go on another date again.
Yeah.
So maybe the writing was on the wall at that point. When I had friends that were going out speed dating, I was like, oh, that sounds so much fun. That sounds amazing. And I was actually listening to an interview that you did, one of your first interviews with your gran Claire, which was a phenomenal interview, by the way. And she was approaching, I think, 90 at the time. But with that generation, it was very much the culture of you make your bed and you lie in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we were almost just encouraged to
do that.
To settle. And you think back to, again, I mean, you're so mature for your age, but for me, the person I was in my early 20s is so different to the person I am now. I've evolved so much and been such a journey of self-development, personal growth, professional growth, that, if you just spoke to me in my early 20s about this stuff, I'd have probably just punched you in the face. I always sort of joke and say that the old Ellie would absolutely hate the new Ellie. We didn't really have anything in common. We have very different morals, values, interests. They feel kind of...
At what point did that change?
I think there's probably been quite a few pivotal moments over the years. But in 2018... I actually went to a self-development event, a Grant Cardone event in Glasgow, and it was quite life-changing for me. At that point, I'd been on antidepressants for quite a few years. I'd had ongoing battles with depression, with anxiety, with a multitude of mental health problems. I'd had postnatal depression. And to be quite honest, I didn't really take that much responsibility for my own life. But something triggered me in that 2018 event to make the changes to start to come off the medication, to take more of an interest in my health. I started to listen to more audiobooks, more podcasts, and almost brainwash myself, reprogram myself, which... Ironically, as a teenager and in my early 20s, I was always quite a high-performance person. I was a sales manager, which is how I ended up moving to England. I got promoted and I was a regional manager responsible for like 100 people. And I was very much into your Tony Robbins, your Paul McKenna, how to change your life in 7 days. I was big into the motivational speakers. And then something happened and I just became quite jaded and cynical and just thought that it was all a load of American happy clappy bullshit, basically, and completely turned my back on the whole space. And it wasn't until 2018 it almost reignited a fire that had been quite dormant in me that put me back onto this path. So like bringing it back to relationships, my now ex-husband at the time had started this self-development journey with me, but at some point he kind of plateaued and then rescinded, if anything, whereas I continued to not only embrace it but to live and breathe it. And somewhere along the line you just start going in completely different directions. And again, going back to what I was saying before, good is the enemy of great. And there were so many positive parts of that relationship that I was almost willing to overlook the bits that weren't great. Because we had 3 children and co-parented very well together and there was no massive big issues, I almost remember making a conscious decision to sacrifice my own happiness for the sake of that family unit.
Absolutely. And tell me what you were saying yesterday about how you feel with when it comes to talking about to your children about the divorce situation, and the fact that you said about how they'll not get over it, but what was the thing you were saying about how young they are when you are like, the challenge is to tell them we're getting a divorce, this is going to happen, and that's obviously life-changing for anyone, but you were saying something really incredible. It was such a good, valuable saying.
Yeah, so in 2021, this is something I've not actually shared publicly before, I actually said to my ex-husband that I wanted to leave the marriage, that I didn't think I loved him anymore and I didn't think it was working. Through the conversations that then ensued, obviously didn't leave and continued to stay and make a concerted effort to try and rebuild, and again just paper over the cracks just to suppress all of those concerns and bury the sort of deep level of unhappiness that I had as well. Publicly, we're very much seen as a power couple. The children were so happy. On paper, we had this idyllic life. We didn't have any financial concerns. You know, we had the nice house. We were able to go on the holidays. And the thought of throwing a grenade into this perfect life and causing the emotional distress to my children ultimately wasn't worth the perceived risk, if you like, from my part. Now, fast forward to 18 months ago, I do think like the universe gives you little nudges sometimes, and I was given plenty of nudges over the years to walk away from that relationship, and I didn't listen. So January 2024, the universe had other plans, and a massive big bomb just exploded into my life, which meant that there was no question that this marriage was over.
You've got a bug on your...
Have I got a bug?
Move this.
Have I got a little friend?
Oh, there we go. I noticed it being like, oh, it's getting closer.
I've got a little friend. Yeah, long story short, or long story long in my case, I don't think I'm very good at abbreviating stories. We've sat down with the children and told them that we're getting a divorce, and it's probably quite a generic talk that most parents, I remember my parents giving it back in the day as well. You know, it's, we love you, we love each other, but it's like love like a brother and a sister, and we're still going to present as a sort of family unit. And
united front.
Front, and actually a lot of the stuff that was going on behind the scenes and the carnage and the resentment that I was experiencing at the time, you know, I will always put my children first and love my children far more than I would anyway. That's a whole different story. Anyone who's been through that situation knows how difficult it is, and it was horrible. It's one of the worst experiences of my life, having to sit down and tell the children. So we told my eldest first, because she's a few years older than the youngest two, and we felt that that was the right approach. And also we wanted her support as well, to be able to, we knew that it would be even worse if my youngest two children, Sam and Bella, saw their big sister getting really upset. So
Yeah.
we kind of let Sienna go through that process, and we honoured that with her separately. And then the following day we spoke to the youngest two. And there was obviously fallout from that. It wasn't a nice situation at the time, but children are just so resilient and they bounce back so quickly. And I was actually quite amazed at how normal it became within such a short period of time. And again, everything's about perception. It's how you present things to people. We presented to them as an exciting, the fact that Daddy's going to have another house and you're going to have 2 bedrooms and it's great and you get the best of both worlds. But it did make me think that so many people like myself settle for mediocrity. They settle for a very average life, or they suppress their own desires. They suppress their own happiness for whatever reason. Sometimes it's not even a conscious decision to do that because we think it's for the greater good. But actually I realised, 1, children do bounce back.
Yeah.
And 2, the greatest gift that I can give my children is to present as the best version of me, the happiest version of me. Because when you're in optimal energy, when children can sense that, it's an absolute game changer. And actually the life I've created now for my children as a single parent, they don't have the same lifestyle. We don't have the 5-star holidays. We don't have the big house. I'm driving around in my friend's car from 15-year-old car at the moment because it's a very, very different lifestyle. However, my children are happier than they've ever been, and the energy in our house is the vibration is always so high. It's so happy. It's so positive. And I can't help but think that had this big massive bomb not went off in my life, would I have ever left? I mean, based on the fact that I already tried to once, I would say probably not. So why do we feel as parents that we have to sacrifice our own happiness? And it's that whole cliche about you got to put your own ear mask on first sometimes. Otherwise you really can't help other people.
Yeah, that's so true. I've never heard it like that before, but it literally is that. How do you define love? What is love to you?
Oh, I don't know. There's so many different versions of love, isn't there? The love we have for our children.
Because I think it's hard because I think in every relationship, your love kind of changes. Like a lot of people go, when you talk about when you're a child and in your first, relationship and you look back on it and you think, oh, that wasn't love. Like now I'm in love with my new partner. But I believe that you are in love. It's just a completely different, that's what love means to you at that point. And that's what, and love is, I think, ever changing, and you can fall in and out of love, but it's interesting to hear like your perspective from a side, how obviously you've loved your ex-husband when you were together and you probably will forever continue to love him in a sense, maybe, or maybe you're thinking absolutely not. Yeah, exactly. Like, of course. But it's one of those things that you want to stay with them because you feel like you want to nurture this love and think, but there was love, and that's why you want to stay in the relationship. But then you got to see out the cloud and think, no, hang on a second. I'm being you're being told things that then aren't true, and that's the.
So it's a really, really good question. And this was something that haunted me for the last few years of my marriage, because I do think that going back to Claire, going back to your grandma and the generations of old where we had, it's almost gone from one extreme to another, from you make your bed and you lie in it, to people walking away from relationships willy-nilly. And they do take work, they do take effort, and it's not just all that infatuation that we have at the start of a relationship. And as you just said very eloquently, we can go through seasons, we can fall out of love, and marriages or any long-term relationship take hard work. Sometimes things go stagnant. Sometimes you need to spice them up. Sometimes you can't stand looking at each other and you think, you know what, I could quite comfortably leave you. But then 6 months later, that sparks back and you've got that connection. So I think that that's something that's quite a personal thing, because when do you know when is enough? When do you know that the love really has fizzled out and that spark can't kind of get reconnected. But when you think back to your previous relationships, I think back to my previous relationships, like my first sort of, I'd had a few boyfriends, but my first serious one at age 17. God, I look back now and oh God, I've not spoken any of this stuff publicly before. So I worked in sales. I worked in double glazing. It started off as just a little bit of a side hustle doing telephone canvassing. And I ended up, I love talking, surprise, surprise. And I just couldn't believe that someone was willing to pay me to talk.
Yeah.
It's kind of came full circle now with the podcasting. So I was living my best life and I just started earning all this commission and all this crazy money. And I lived and breathed sales. Absolutely loved it. And for that reason, I was there like 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. And it was all quite an incestuous environment. We'd go out drinking at the pub together. We used to socialise together. It was like one big family. So a lot of relationships used to sort of take place within the workplace. And I was always attracted to older men, not because of a like materialistic element, but because I just found them more interesting, more knowledgeable, a bit more stimulating. Bearing in mind, I'd been out like drinking at bus stops and stuff by the time I was like 14. And by the time I got to 17, I was a bit over it. I was like, you know, I'd probably drank more from the ages of 14 to 17 than the average human has in their lifetime. And I remember falling deeply in love with my boss at the time.
Oh my gosh.
So this is also why I was really skeptical about online dating, because everything is based on looks, isn't it? And when I think back to pretty much all my previous relationships, they've all been quite ugly. But you know, if you'd have said to me at the time, like, I would not have believed you. I truly, truly believed that these people were the most gorgeous, Adonis-like creatures to ever grace the planet. And it's only with hindsight that I'm like, oh my God.
That's so funny.
So I'm 17, pretending to be 19.
Yeah.
He was telling me he was like 37. We've entered this relationship, became quite like close, quite intimate quite quickly. He'd left his passport or something lying about, or I'd went to put some, went to put something in a drawer, found his, so he was 45.
No.
So I was 17. And he was, I mean, that's borderline grooming, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I've got 2 daughters now.
And you imagine that, you'd be fuming.
I'd be, I would be absolutely livid. So that was like my first true love.
Yeah.
And he treated me like absolute shit. He said jump and I was like, how high? This sort of disgusting, fat, ugly bloke that I thought was drop dead gorgeous treated me like absolutely shit. I was fully obsessed with him. And that was my first love.
Wow. Oh my God, that's amazing. And do you think there's an element of what you had there then in your relationship with your ex-husband? Like that you felt like you were
groomed?
No, not groomed. No, but you know when you feel like you can't, it's quite hard to get out of that habit. You don't realise it's kind of happening, but you think that there's certain things that you let slip under the rug.
No, so that turned me into hard ass. It's probably the best thing that could have ever happened, because when I came out of that relationship, I recognised quite quickly what a mug I'd been. So actually I took it too far, and the next boyfriend I had, who was a really nice guy, I just treated him like shit. So I was like, no one's going to treat me like that again. And then I was like, so I kind of was probably not the best.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Doncaster, and then I was in the same situation again, living and breathing work.
Yeah.
Ended up in a situation where I started going out with my boss again. Can I just say, can we just caveat this? I'd already got the job, okay? This wasn't my career strategy. The jobs were already secured, okay?
Yeah.
But again, similar sort of thing. Attracted to maybe the power. It was power and influence, maybe. The fact that older guys typically had more to talk about, more emotional intelligence. I was always quite mature for my age. So at 17, 18, 19, I was so bored of the whole clubbing, other guys at that age. I just didn't find that I had much in common with them.
And how do you feel now going into starting dating again? Do you still look for a powerful man, or are you a bit like, oh, I don't need that because you're powerful in yourself? You know, what you've created over the years is huge. Like, do you think now you don't need maybe you just need like a certain validation from a guy, if no matter what their job is?
Oh, you know what's really interesting? Yeah, so having always been attracted to older guys, now as a 42-year-old woman, if I'm looking at older guys, I'm just like, I don't identify as a 42-year-old woman.
Yeah.
I identify as a 25-year-old.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, I think in terms of that criteria alone, it's very, very different. So some of the conversations I was having, so I've only just joined online dating, which I did as a social experiment for this podcast, ironically. So like a weekend, I'm not some sort of veteran. So I've got quite limited experience. But at the start of the year, it was all like a little bit bizarre, actually. I put an intention out to the universe. I was ready to start dating again, which I actually wasn't, but that was the intention I put out. Now, this was just a conversation between me and God, me and the universe, whatever you want to class it as. And within the space of 24 hours, I must have had like 10 messages on Instagram from really cute guys. And so I'm thinking I'm going to go younger, not older, because I want like someone fun, someone high energy, whatever. But I found very quickly that the younger guys, especially the ones that don't have children, they just really lack the emotional intelligence. So to answer your question, I think it's about energy as opposed to having a specific type, for sure. But I would say it's more important than ever for me to have a guy who is really comfortable with their masculinity, because if I'm being perfectly honest, I wore the trousers in my last relationship, and I don't think that's a very attractive quality. I think for me to really find someone attractive, it needs to be an equal dynamic. And I suppose I've got quite traditional values in the sense that I don't mind saying that women, I think deep down we want to be looked after, we want to be nurtured, we want to feel safe. And I'm a powerful woman, and in a lot of respects, I am independent. I think most people can be independent. I think we can be self-sufficient, and that's not a bad quality to have. I'm very confident. When I've done my disc profile before, I'm a high D, high I, so high dominant, high influence. But because in particular this last 18 months, I've been very much in fight or flight mode. I've been in that masculine energy a lot more often than I'd like, because I'm fiercely protecting my family, and I'm having to be the male and the female in a lot of respects. It's just made me realise that I do need a really strong man to allow me to be in my feminine energy, because that's what I want. I don't want to have to be in my masculine energy all the time, but I need a guy to allow me to feel like that, and allow me to be vulnerable, and allow me to be open, and allow me to kind of bring those defences down a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's something anyone should look for, that you're equal and you allow, as soon as someone slips, they pick you up and they, be the hole, fill the hole. And literally. Talk to me about your childhood. So can you remember having the conversation with your parents about the birds and the bees? And I know you've said before that you've had quite a challenging upbringing with your sister and your parents, and then obviously if they went through a divorce as well. How was it for you growing up? Did you talk openly about having sex, or was it kind of like, we're not going there?
No, it was quite awful, really. I remember my mum, who I think was a little bit drunk. I was at my auntie's house at the time. It must be like over Christmas, some sort of family gathering, something like that. And I was loving it because I was watching a film that I wasn't allowed to watch in one of the bedrooms. And it was Stephen King's Icks. I was absolutely terrified. I think it's a 15, so I was probably about 12 or something like that at the time. And I remember my mum coming in and sitting at the edge of the bed. She'd obviously been having conversations with a grown-up about, have you had the chat about the birds and the bees? And then she's, had a few Bacardis and was like, no, I'll go and do it now. So she comes and sits on the bed and literally was like, I can't remember in detail, but it was a very short conversation. And this was literally the entirety of it. Oh, you have a penis and you have a vagina, and then that's what sex is. I was like, great, thanks, Mum, and went back to watching the film. It was like a non-thing. And that was it. But
you knew about it before?
No,
or
not really.
This was literally the first ever you were
No,
hearing about
and
it?
there was no, like, she wasn't talking about female pleasure or
Yeah.
orgasms or contraception, or it was just
literally,
a
this
case
is how
of,
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like your sex education at school. The diagram, there was no, it was absolutely horrific. And you mentioned it was quite a challenging childhood. Again, I don't really speak about this, but I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of either. I didn't have much parental guidance in those teenage years, those formative years, where I think, especially as a young girl, young girls, we need our mums and we need that support and that nurturing. But they were going through their own versions of trauma. They had a business that was going bankrupt. We were getting houses repossessed. My parents were getting divorced at the time. Both my mum and my dad had very severe mental health problems. My dad was suicidal. My mum was having a full psychotic breakdown. My sister, who's now been diagnosed with bipolar, was having another psychotic breakdown, chopping her hair off and rocking in cupboards. And I had all of this stuff going on in my home life.
Yeah.
So no one was paying any attention to me or what I was doing. And I didn't know how to cope with it. I didn't know how to cope with my parents being in such a mess. I didn't understand what was happening, why we had to move, why we went from having all this money and these nice holidays and cars to like living in a little 2-bed masonette. I didn't understand why my dad, who'd always been such a strong role model and such a confident man, was in tears every night. I'd never even seen him upset at that point. And my way of getting validation or to feel like I was accepted in some way was to go out and to drink loads of alcohol, as we all did. And it was a really toxic culture, really, where I grew up in Scotland, like a lot of underage sex. And, you know, I'm not saying this with any kind of judgment, really, but we, as girls then, there was no, you know, you're shown a diagram at school, there was no talk of self-worth.
Yeah.
There was no talk about what a relationship you should look like, or being coerced, or situations that you should be able to say no to. And actually, when I look back, there was a lot of really bad stuff that happened to me during that period. But age 14 and 15, it wasn't uncommon for girls to be having sex with their boyfriends or with whoever at that point. And I just wish now, because I had a lot of probably I don't know, self-worth is the right word, a lot of shame and guilt attached to that period of my life. Whereas now, as an adult, having done so much self-development, it's almost like going back and doing that inner child work and saying to 14, 15-year-old Ellie, look, it's going to be okay. Not only have you not done anything wrong, but people have let you down. Like, you should have had support. You should have had guidance. You should have had people in your life that were there for you, that were preventing you making some of these decisions, that were showing you love, showing you what a healthy relationship should look like. Because, again, you've got such a wonderful family dynamic here. I think your setup's amazing. My parents separated. Well, my mum moved out and then moved back in, and then they finally separated when I was like 14, 15. But for years up until that point, all I'd seen was shouting, screaming, things getting thrown, things getting smashed, the most nasty, vitriol comments. It was my experience of what marriage and a relationship should look like was definitely not the like optimal example that you'd want to set for your children. So going from that to seeing so much destruction with the divorce and the mental health and everything else, then at the time where you're going into the drinking and everyone's sort of starting to behave in a more promiscuous manner with no moral guidance, with no support from like the school or parents or wider family members, it was just like a recipe for disaster.
It must make you show up so much more now for your children as well, because you realise what you were lacking to think, I am never doing that, you know.
Hey you,
you, sexy bunch. Did you know that only 10% of you actually subscribe to the channel? It'd be amazing if you could like, subscribe, follow, do your thing. It really means the world. Thank you so much for your continued support. Have you had the discussion with your children about sex education or not yet?
Well, my youngest, we've just had a round of birthdays, so we've got 8, 9 and 13. So yeah, my 13-year-old, absolutely. She missed a sex education day at school.
Okay.
I can't remember whether she was off, sick, or I can't remember, but I was devastated. I was like, oh man, like where do we even start with this one? But I didn't want it to be a taboo subject, and I want, like you say, I just think everything that happens in your life, every negative, every downside has an upside, and every upside has a downside. And my upbringing, I don't necessarily see as negative at all. It's helped me become the person that I am, and I just think now what I would do differently, and I want to be able to have that open dialogue with all of my children. Same with like things like periods and menstrual cycles. Like that wasn't really ever discussed either.
And that's thing. A lot of people look at sex education and they think that I need to tell them about penetrative sex or whatever sex means to everyone, but it's really also about the menstrual cycle and just generally your own body. And I just feel like I learned so late in life what actually my body was and what each part of me and what I wanted to do with it, so it's crazy. I feel like people look at they get scared with sex education and they think, oh no, like, oh God, I don't want to go into that. But it's not about the actual act of sex. It's about everything else around it, building relationships, building friendships even. That's what you should be learning.
Could I just say with that as well though, because like I totally agree with everything that you're just saying, and you and I had a chat before we started filming, and I think it's a really interesting one around children, because as adults, it's almost still a taboo subject talking about sex, whereas now I'll talk about sex to anyone. That wouldn't have been me 20 years ago. So when I met my husband, my now ex-husband, I would have been still, even at 21, 22, like wouldn't I felt confident or comfortable sitting down at the start of that relationship and saying what I like sexually, or it was a bit like, I don't know, and that's crazy. That's the person I've went on to build a life with and have 3 children with, and I don't want it to be like that around my children. But also I don't want to, I've got a big issue with how over-sexualized things are just in modern society, from music videos to certain content that's out there. So I think it's a bit of a balancing act, but sex is the most natural, it's obviously,
it's kind of thing we're bred to do.
Exactly. So I don't know. I think podcasts like yours and some of the apps and different like forms of education that are out there now are just really, really important, because it's so weird as a 42-year-old woman now starting to have these conversations. Like it's just crazy, even with my best friends, because I think it's just a standard that we set in every relationship that we have. I don't just mean sexual ones, I just mean every time we have an interaction with somebody, it's a kind of relationship. But I'm quite an open person, but for whatever reason I've never really spoke about sex with my friends while I was married. Maybe I just saw that as just a private thing between two people, obviously just a normal monogamous relationship. But since I've been single, the amount of stories I found out about my friends and the way that the dialogue has changed, I'm like, why did you never talk to me about this stuff before?
Because also it's so important to learn that, to have those conversations, because also you don't know what's right or wrong in your relationship. And like if you're seeing a friend that's telling you about theirs and the fact that either they're not having sex or they're having loads of sex, you suddenly start realising, oh, hang on a second, I'm not having sex at all. Like he never wants it.
Once a quarter is not normal.
Yeah, and so exactly. So it's so important to have those conversations, because then you realise in your own relationship what you want more of, what you don't want, what you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. But it's normalised so many different topics as well. I think the whole thing has blown my mind. Do you want to go off on a few tangents?
Absolutely.
Right,
Always.
okay. So do you know about the sex party?
Oh, no, I've heard, but go on. I don't know the full thing, but I know you said the word sex party, and I was like, I definitely want to ask about that. Yeah, go on.
So this is relevant to the conversations I've had with my friends previously. Like I say, a lot of these people I've been friends with for years, and they've just never really divulged information about their sex lives and vice versa. But the dynamics change now, and we have a lot more sort of open dialogue. So anyway, this particular friend of mine had said some point last year that she'd attended this, or she actually attended quite a few, like sex parties, Killing Kittens, which is a female-led sort of high-end sex club, basically. They have multiple locations and things like that, and they have them internationally. Venice, it's all a bit like Eyes Wide Shut. You'll not remember that because I don't think you were born when that film was out with Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise. And it all sounded like really sort of, you get blindfolded, you're on this speedboat, and then you're like pulling up to some castle in Venice, and I was like, oh my God, like I had no idea this was a thing. So anyway,
Oh, sorry.
you're right there, gorgeous.
Yeah. You talk sex parties and I get so overwhelmed.
Trying to suppress an orgasm. So anyway, I had a friend who like, and I was like, oh my God, is this like a thing?
This is the thing, yeah.
So about a week later, I was at a barbecue with another friend, and without sort of saying any names, I'd mentioned that I had another friend and she'd been to this sex party. So my second friend then said, oh, it's not Killing Kittens, is it? I said, yeah, how do you know about that? She's like, oh yeah, like me and my husband go to like the one in Manchester, we've been to one in London.
Wow.
I was like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, within the space of about 3 months, turns out I've got about 4 friends that go to sex parties,
No
and
way,
had
and you just would
never
have no
ever
idea.
mentioned it to me at all. So one of my friends had said, you need to get Emma Sale on
Yeah.
the podcast.
Yeah.
She's the founder of Killing Kittens. She's a kick-ass businesswoman,
Yeah.
multi-7-figure business owner, and like what she's doing for female empowerment, it's phenomenal.
Amazing, yeah.
Get her on. So anyway, I'd reached out to Emma on Instagram. She'd agreed to come on the podcast, and me being me, really shit with follow-up, I forgot to email back.
Yeah.
Fast forward another month or two, Killing Kittens messaged me on my Instagram and invited me to one of their events, like
Wow.
a sort of press night. I'm thinking
Yeah.
like get a bit of a pull the curtain back on the lifestyle. They've said, look, we'd like to invite you as our special VIP guest. It's a burlesque show, 3-course meal. You're going to stay in this like lovely hotel. It's all on us. Feel free to bring a friend or a partner. I was like, oh, fantastic, that's amazing. We said, let's do, they hadn't actually been made aware that Emma had already agreed to come on the podcast.
Yeah.
It was a total coincidence. So anyway, we thought, we'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone, bring the videographer, bring Kira, my podcast manager, we'll record the podcast, and then we'll attend the press night or whatever in the evening. So I'd arranged to have a Zoom with the head of marketing just to discuss the logistics. She's a sex therapist as well, so jumped on this call, and we were just talking about like the layout, the lighting. She was asking me a little bit about my story. She found it hilarious. She's just like, you're sort of avatar, early 40s, just came out of like
A long relationship. Starting again.
Not being very, so she's like, you're like our demographic. So just as we're wrapping up the phone call, the Zoom call, she says to me, now obviously you don't need to get involved. I said, what do you mean, sorry? She said, well, we've got everything from like super soft right up to like hardcore S&M.
Wow.
So don't feel under any obligation to get involved. Fucking spitting out my peppermint tea at this point. I was like, I think there's been a misunderstanding.
Yeah, I thought you were going for a nice dinner.
I said, I've come for the press night. Because I get invited to things like this all the time. I'd just been at Doncaster Music Festivals, press night, like the week before.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, we don't do press nights or influencer nights or anything like that. We've just invited you as our special guest, but it is a full-on, like, Killing Kittens experience. So bear in mind, I've invited my friend as well, and under the caveat that this is absolutely not a sex party. So I was just like, I'm not going. Straight away, I was like, and she was like, sort of had a bit of a chat with me and explained to me how it works. She's like, look, you're going to go. This one's one of their tamer ones. Yeah. It just so happened. She said, look, you've got the burlesque show, which was all really tastefully done in this separate venue. She said, and then you come back and you've got the bar area, the cocktail lounge, and it's all really lovely ambience. My concern was I don't want to be sat there sipping my mocktail, looking around and just like...
Yeah. Or someone even coming up to you and...
Yeah, well, they can't do that with Killing Kittens. The women have to approach the men, which actually helps to create a bit of a safer environment. Yeah. So, yeah, she said, look, you don't see anything unless you actively choose to see anything. Yeah. She said, like, loads of us just go for the social element. She said, I go to loads of these events. I'll watch the show or whatever. I'll have the meal and I just sit having might have a bit of a dance in my lingerie or whatever with... some of my female friends. She said there's absolutely no expectation. She said unless you go up the stairs and enter any of the playrooms, you're not going to see anything that you don't want to see. So after having like a bit of a mild panic attack, I was like, right, okay, I'm going to go. So I had to pick up the phone to my friend. I was like,
Justina.
So you know how I said that this isn't a sex party? And anyway, she was just like, oh, fuck it, let's go.
That's so much fun.
So then I had to ring Kira, podcast manager, who's in her early 20s as well. Bearing in mind, we've been at locations all over the country, abroad, filming. Like, this isn't our usual kind of gig here. I was like, we're doing the thing and then we've actually got a ticket to attend the full-on event. It was only me that had the issue. Everyone else was like, oh yeah, cool, let's go and do it. So yeah, it was just really ironic because it was my wedding anniversary in the April, which although we were a little bit separate, we're still like living under the same roof the year previously and would not announce the divorce or the separation to the kids at that point. So really it was my first anniversary as a single person, if you like, which is obviously quite a difficult milestone.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that was on the Tuesday. And then on the Friday,
I
was at a sex club.
And what did you think of it?
Well, so I was I think the thing I was most scared about by this point was where my own boundaries were. I was more worried that I'd go because I've not had sex in so long. Yeah. I was like, this is going to go one of two ways. I'm like swinging off the chandelier. But also I just think for me it was quite a big deal because it's breaking down your own perceptions and I feel that when I kind of got maybe a bit too conservative over the years, a bit too... I don't know, set in my ways. And so anyway, long story short, I went, you don't have to see anything. Do you want to go all the way to, a sex party and then not go and have a little nosy? Like that just wasn't going to happen. So Kira and I were just at the bar and my other friend, who I'll not name because, she's got a bit of a profile. But anyway... We're kind of looking at each other, we're like, shall we then? And we're like, let's go up. And it was hilarious. So we psyched ourselves up. We went up and we were really early. Nobody was there. So we're like, oh, for fuck's sake. So came back down, had another drink, and then we went back up and it filled up a little bit. So at first my eyes are popping out my head a little bit. You're just there. And I'm looking there, you got somebody's having sex over there. You've got a guy going down on someone over there. You've got somebody getting involved with somebody else and another couple getting involved there. But what was really strange is just how quickly you kind of adapt to that environment. Yeah. But in true Ellie style, so the guy that I was stood next to, he'd been he sounds a bit dodgy, it wasn't like that at all. He was chaperoning us, really. Yeah. He was one of Emma's friends who'd been sat with us during the meal and knew we were kind of new to the scene, if you like. And he's taking us under his wing a little bit. But this guy's multi-millionaire, really professional guy. And Kira I couldn't remember this, but Kira was saying to me afterwards, I'm sort of saying to him then, and obviously you've got quite a high-powered job. Is this just a way for stress relief? And so have you ever tried ice baths?
That's so funny.
And then later in the conversation, I'm asking him about the different business models and what would you do with this business model and how would you expand it? And
That's so you're really feeling comfortable in the space just to talk business.
yeah, I just thought, you can take the girl out of podcasting, but ultimately I'm asking people what their purpose is. Where do you get your fulfillment? You've obviously got these millions of pounds. You're still as motivated.
That's hilarious.
So here I thought this was just
that's
comical,
so good.
really.
I have been nominated for Love Honey's Sex and Relationship Be Creative of the Year award, and I absolutely can't believe it. And hopefully I'll get lucky.
To change it up a bit, I'd quite like to ask you about your postnatal depression. So really changing it up.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. I clearly wasn't getting enough orgasms at that time.
Yeah. But was it something that you kind of thought you were worried that you possibly could get that because of previous mental health, if you did suffer with mental health issues, or was it completely random? Like, how did you know? What are the signs to then realising, I'm depressed?
To be honest, it was the midwife diagnosed it, if you like, with as I've just totally blank. What's it called again? Postnatal depression. Yeah. Jesus. I think this happens to me all the time as a podcaster as well.
I'm the same.
It's so bad. It's perimenopause or whatever. This is why I take all my methylene blue and things like that to just try and get the loops finished. But I've been struggling with mental health for so long that whether it was postnatal depression or just a continuation of ongoing mental health, I don't truly know, because when you're then not sleeping and then you've got all the additional hormones that are associated with pregnancy and then childbirth, plus the concoction of medication I was on, then it's, it could be a multitude of things really. Yeah. But with my third child, with Sam, my youngest, he just didn't sleep. Like, he didn't sleep at all, day or night, for 6 months.
Tough.
And I couldn't just sleep through the day if he was having a nap. I had two other children to take to school or to deal with. But that entire period, I think I mentioned that like 2018, back end of 2018 is when I made the decision to start transitioning off of the medication. But up until that point, it was just, it was quite a grim time really. And I'd had the 2 consecutive pregnancies as well, which was never planned. In fact, when I say it wasn't planned, so we've got Sienna's just turned 13, fell pregnant really easily, was really, really blessed, made the decision to have Isabella 4 years later, planned it to perfection, again got pregnant straight away. So Sienna was just starting school, which then allowed me the same opportunity to invest the time with Isabella and take her to all the play groups and the baby massage and things like that. So it couldn't have worked out better in that regard. Now, I mentioned about like the mental health problems. My husband at the time had an electrical installation business, which was on the brink of potentially going under.
Right.
So the amount of stress and pressure we were under was absolutely horrendous. And I'd been signed off work for pretty much the entire duration of that pregnancy with the suspected Crohn's at the time. But looking back now, I think it was just stress and probably lifestyle which induced that. So Isabella's born. Hormones are through the roof. I think I was only able to breastfeed for about 10 weeks. I had some sort of complications or whatever. And we basically just were under so much pressure, just had a bit of a drunken blowout, as you do. And next thing you know, it's about 2 weeks later, and I felt strange. I thought, this doesn't feel normal. I recognise this feeling. I was like, I'm pregnant. So I said to Mark, I was like, can you just go to the shop and get a pregnancy test? He was like, what on earth? And like, don't be so ridiculous. I'm like, just humour me. I said, don't get the clear blue ones. Don't get the 15 quid ones. Just go and get one of those 99p ones. So he was like, you should go into the shop anyway to get some beer or whatever. I was like, no problem. Just thought it was a bit, he's like, you learn not to question a crazy hormonal lady at this point. Just get her the pregnancy test. So anyway, went to do the pregnancy test and lo and behold, it came back positive. So sent him back for the clear blue one. Bearing in mind, Isabella's 3 months old at this time. I just remember picking up the phone and ringing my dad in floods of tears. Bearing in mind, I'm already batshit crazy at this point. bursting out crying and just saying to my dad, Dad, I'm having a baby. And my dad's like, oh, darling, you've had the baby. And I'm like, this is another one. So the fact that I had all of those, I mean, you've not experienced it yet. I know you're obviously a lot younger than me, but pregnancy hormones are crazy, and it's the same once you've given birth as well. So to instantly go from being in that period of heightened hormones to going straight into another pregnancy, but this time one for the first time that hadn't actually been planned. So much so this, I found out on the Friday I was pregnant. On the Monday, Mark was booked in for the snip. He was booked in for the vasectomy.
Oh my goodness. Literally got in there just before.
Yeah. So he went and the doctor said to him, look, are you sure this is irreversible? He's like, look, I was sure last week. Now I'm extra
sure. I said, yeah. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, with regards to the postnatal, like that whole time was just so grim. And I actually went through a bit of a weird stage last year. I don't know if it's just because of my age and biologically the decision might be taken out of my hands within the next couple of years. But I started to feel really broody, like I wanted another baby again. And a big part of that, I think, was because I didn't really appreciate or enjoy them when they were young because of my mental health. It was just such a chore.
Yeah.
It was almost just like a countdown to bedtime. I just didn't enjoy being a mum for those, not necessarily with Sienna, my eldest, but with Sam and Isabella. It was just so intense. I couldn't do any of the things with Isabella that I'd planned on doing. And unfortunately, she got fobbed off a lot because a lot of the play groups and things that I would take her to have then got a newborn baby, and she's starting to learn to crawl and to walk, and you have to run around after her, but I've got a newborn baby here. So in the end, I just kind of didn't leave the house, which again is not great for your mental health.
And when you look back on it, what advice would you give to anyone else that's going through this sort of similar thing?
I think connecting with other people that are going through a similar experience, and as difficult it is to get out the house sometimes. I don't mean like practically with your baby bags and things like that, but I just mean if you're not sleeping very much and your hormones all over the place and you're struggling with your mental health, just communicate with I was really lucky. I had a health visitor, not midwife. I had a really supportive health visitor, but we had a lot of fantastic community like events that you could go to, things like your light sensory classes and your baby massage, or even just taking your babies to get weighed if that's still a thing. It was a chance for mums to get together. They had drop-in clinics. So try to force yourself out your comfort zone and get around some other mums and communicate if you're struggling, because I think there is still quite a lot of shame attached, especially when other people are finding it so easy and it's such a joyous time of their life having a child and you're not sharing those special moments. I found that really, really hard, because I had a little group of friends that I met within these classes that were all quite rightly so loving being a mum or a first-time mum. And I did feel like I wasn't able to say how hard I was finding it, but when I did, the support that I got just made it so much more bearable. Yeah,
absolutely. And then obviously if your husband's business was I don't want to say failing, but was going under at that specific point, how did you then, obviously you then got into a business with your partner. How was that working with your partner, having children with a partner, you're living under the same roof as you do, but to manage all of that and to still have a dating life, I suppose, because you want to have a romantic relationship. How was it? You obviously lacked in certain areas, probably. No, especially now you're divorced. But because that's a lot to do to work with your husband. That's a big deal. And how did that impact your life?
You know what? It was actually one of the most challenging but rewarding things that we ever did for a period of time. And I think it's just having clear roles and responsibilities and boundaries in terms of what you're doing within that business, for sure. So although we were directors of the same company, he was very much there's 3 directors, but he was very much operations.
Yeah.
I stayed in my lane. I was marketing. I used to do the brand building. I used to attend a lot of events, a lot of meetings, a lot of client relations, that kind of thing. It was really great in the early days to have someone to share that vision with. And also the roller coaster is so real. I mean, you know yourself, launching the podcast, all the other sort of business ventures that you've got, it can be, you know, it's feast or famine sometimes. But also the more I was getting into the self-development and the mindset, it felt like a very lonely path. I felt like setting up that business really showed me who my friends were. And again, you and I were chatting about this, and we talk about the dark times can reveal who's really in your corner. But also there's a complete opposite side of that, which was my experience in those early days when the business started to take off. The more that we started to succeed, the more that certain people started to distance themselves from me. And when you're doing your first buy-to-let property, it's like, oh, fantastic. You've got a bit of pat in the back. Well done you, that's great. And you do a second one and people are like, it's great, you know, love to see you doing well. By the time you're buying your third property, people don't like it. People like to see you doing well, but they don't like to see you do better than they do. So in a lot of respects, that actually brought us closer together. But actually very similarly, similarly, is that a word? To my mum and dad, who had the business together and went, they separated, they then went through a bankruptcy situation. We have almost repeated the same pattern. And, you know, obviously every couple is very different. But with my husband at the time, when challenges started to arrive, I think it probably started during COVID, he just stopped communicating with the other business partner as well, but with me, who I'm not just a director, I'm his wife. And not only are you not communicating, but by default, you're then starting to lie about the situation that you're in. And when your whole world is intertwined, it's great when it's going well. But then when it's not going well and things come to an end, it's everything. It's not just your marriage, it's your livelihood as well. But I think you do need to have the boundaries in place in terms of not necessarily the work-life balance, but because I'm going to contradict myself slightly here, because I was so passionate about entrepreneurship, because I was so passionate about business. If you'd have said to me, oh, don't talk about that at the weekend, that wouldn't have worked for me. I'm like, well, I'd rather talk about that than EastEnders or whatever else. But I think where we went wrong, and a lot of other couples go wrong, is not necessarily carving out the time to, yes, you can be talking about work, but you can still do it in a nicer environment. You can still go out to that nice restaurant or go on a walk, and just make sure that you're prioritizing each other as individuals as opposed to just business partners.
Absolutely. No, I totally get that. So, and then going on dates now, can you give me your best chat up line?
I've not been on any.
But what's your thing on Hinge? What are you putting down?
Oh, okay. So, well, I've actually done it for a few days. I've only been on a week. I was really hoping to have some better stories for you. So I put in no effort whatsoever to my...
You let them come to you.
Yeah, none whatsoever. I have got no clue what I'm doing. So I joined up for with 3. So I thought I'll just do 1.
Yeah.
Then I'm speaking to all my guy friends. They're like, look, you need to do the full experience. So then I joined Tinder, and then I joined Bumble. Bumble I just can't deal with, because this is, like, I don't want to sound arrogant, but there's just too many matches. Like, I can't keep on top of them, and the way that the app's presented, it just gives me anxiety, and I just felt like it was taking a piece of my soul. I felt like a bad person. I'm just like, no. And I just thought, this is not the life I want to be living. at all. It was just, I just felt, and I know you've met your partner from Hinge. I've got so many friends who have, they've ended up getting married and stuff off online dating. And I actually have met somebody who is really nice off one of the apps as well. Obviously, it's like I've only been on it a week, so it's like really early days. So not everyone's weird, but yeah, I just found the whole experience like really strange. I think it might be my Tinder one. They're like, for your bio, I've just put typing, ... which I just think is really hilarious, but like not many other people do.
That's so funny. And do you think you would go into business again with a partner, or do you think not? Yeah.
What the fuck? I mean, come on. It's what's it Einstein said in Sunny's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting to get different results.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't think so. I think. No, in all seriousness, I'm not jaded. I appreciate my experience is quite unique, but in terms of, I'm not saying I wouldn't collaborate or do joint ventures with people, but yeah, I didn't even, for a bit of context, I didn't even access to our company bank accounts. I'd never spoken to a solicitor, I'd never spoken to an accountant. And I take full responsibility for that. Yeah. That's down to me as a director. We have fiscal responsibilities.
Yeah.
All I can do is learn from that experience. And I don't think I will ever allow myself to be in a situation where anybody, man or woman, can ever have that much of an impact of my life, where I can go from thinking that I'm a millionaire to having to register myself and 3 children as homeless because my bank accounts have been emptied, my house is going to imminently get repossessed, I don't have a car to drive. I mean, to allow myself to be in a situation like that again, I think it's that whole thing, happen once, shame on you, happen twice, shame on me.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you pick yourself up from that? I mean, it's a long process, it's a long journey. Have you got to a point where you feel good and you can kind of, that's in the past, or do you think it will always be with you?
I think the lessons will always be with me, 100%. I honestly feel in a lot of respects happier, stronger, healthier, more empowered, more capable than I ever have in my entire life. And actually, to bring it back to dating, I think that's why, although I did it as a bit of a social experiment for this podcast, going on online dating, I am ready to go back out dating again. Now that timeline is very different for everyone, but back in January, which is when I was like December, January, I went through a phase of like arranging a load of dates and chatting to guys and just ended up cancelling them. When I look back on that now, I was very much trying to paper over the cracks. I was experiencing a loneliness that I've never had in my life before, because when you leave a relationship and there's children involved, that's obviously the fallout that nobody wants or asks for. You're not divorcing your children, but you're in a forced situation where 50% of the time, or whatever that split is, you aren't seeing them. And as much as a sort of highly ambitious person, I've spent plenty of time away from my children. I've been to Dubai without them. I've been to Mexico without them. I would travel regularly to London and have overnights and things like that. It was always on my terms. And I was always doing something of my choosing with whatever period of time that was. This was the first time where I'm in a situation where I just don't have my kids. And I've got 2 dogs as well who go with the kids. So all of a sudden the house goes from being full of fun and noise and laughter and chaos to deathly silence. And that extremity, like, it was a bit of a grieving process that I had to go through, which, by the way, I have went through. And now I'm living my best life and I cherish every minute that my children aren't with me. I'm so present when I'm with them. But now I use this as an opportunity to go and do all the stuff that I couldn't do. I go hiking, I go to wellness retreats, I catch up with friends. I can catch up with work because I have to try and fit all my work into school hours through the week. So if I want to go and work on a Saturday afternoon without anyone moaning at me, I'm able to do that. But back in January, when I was arranging the dates and I was having these conversations with guys, it was to try and, maybe it was a bit of validation, a bit of ego, but really I just needed a distraction. And I see this a lot with other people. You have to allow yourself time to heal,
Yeah,
to process
absolutely.
trauma, to reconnect with yourself, and also not look to any external person or situation to fulfill your own happiness.
Yeah.
Like, we're responsible for our own happiness. And I don't think that when we're, like, I'm all about energy and frequency. And when you're in that kind of vibration, you're not attracting the right kind of person into your life. Whereas when you're confident, when you're happy, like, I love being single. I love my single life. So therefore, I'm not going to compromise or settle for anything or anyone that doesn't fit in with that, because I feel whole and I feel complete. So if someone's not going to enhance that, then...
But it's so true what people say about you got to love yourself before you love anyone else.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to go to audience questions now.
Ooh,
So let me grab...
I'm scared.
Oh, knocking everything down. Right, let's see what we've got. Which business guru would be your perfect date?
Oh, perfect date. Andrew Tate. No, Jesus. Oh, business. Is there any fit business gurus?
God, this is just not my area.
Business gurus.
I mean, to be honest, I feel like you interview so many that you're probably like on a date every day.
I wish.
We're on a date now.
I'm honestly trying to think. Business gurus. They're all married.
Alan Sugar?
Oh my God. Oh, do you want to know something?
Oh, go on.
I'm instantly backtracking there. This is potentially the most embarrassing thing I've ever said publicly. It's just, you're saying about Alan Sugar, and I was about to say that's sick, like he's about 90. So do you want to know who my secret crush was?
Oh, yeah, go on.
So you're not going to know who this person is because you're so young, which is quite telling. I used to, so now I just, I don't really watch any political program. I've almost became apolitical because I'm so disillusioned with the state of the world. But for a lot of years, I was quite obsessed with politics, and I used to watch the Andrew Marr show, and I'd watch Question Time every Thursday night or what have you. And Question Time, you'll need to Google this guy and you'll see who I mean, was hosted by a guy called David Dimbleby.
I'm going to look him
Right,
up
go
now.
and just Google him and you'll know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying. And he used to be there with his glasses, and he was about 90, and the way he used to peer over his glasses, I used to think, fucking hell, you're really sexy.
David, what?
Dimbleby.
Dimbleby.
I think it's, to get the full impact of this story.
Dongleby or Dingleby?
Dimbleby.
Dimbleby.
We need a translator.
It's because I only say that because it's coming up on this search engine
Right.
that first before Dimbleby.
David Dimble. Here we go. This is, I think,
Because it's giving me all the suggestions and it's all Dungleby.
so here he is. Here he is.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. So
I think he's about 90.
how would your perfect evening play out with him?
Oh, don't. That's sick. I'm not in that space anymore. I don't know. It was just, you know what? It's, again...
Wait, how old were you when you thought this?
Late teens, early 20s.
That is, oh my goodness.
You know, so again, it's, some people are attracted to money. I'm attracted to intelligence.
Right, okay.
Oh, I don't
Or
know.
just
Can we edit this out?
old people. You can try and get away with intelligence.
Charity work.
That's so funny.
Sure, he's got a few moves.
During your business career, have you received unwanted or wanted sexual attention from business people outside of your marriage?
I mean, obviously opportunities present, but again, I think when I was married, no, not really, to be honest with you. I would shut off any kind of vibes, if you like.
Yeah.
So no, I don't really have any exciting stories to tell.
And do you think that's the best way of dealing with it, is like for anyone that is getting unwanted or sexual attention in the workplace, is the best thing going, like, is saying, oh, you're being inappropriate, let's,
whereas in my case, clearly when it happened in the workplace, I was like, oh, brilliant, let's go on a date.
Yeah.
ended up into serious relationships off the back of it. No, on a serious note, I think I'm a very confident character. This doesn't make it right, but any potential situations like that, I think I just nipped in the bud. And I was always quite good at having banter with the guys, and I was always in quite male-dominated industry, and you know, I was always there in the kind of power suits and took no prisoners, so was able to shut things down and give innuendo back as kind of good as the rest of them, if you like.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I felt like within that kind of situation, it was kind of dealt with.
And I feel like banter in the workplace has completely changed over the years. Do you think that's for the best? Or
yeah, but we have taken it a bit. So I do. I mean, obviously, we can go back to the 1970s where people were getting sexually harassed and things like that. Of course, it's absolutely not cool. And other people have got very different experiences of really inappropriate things happening to them. And I would never want to diminish that or dismiss what people have been through. But I can only speak from my own experience, and I quite like, again, I've always got on with the guys. I've always been one of the lads to an extent and got involved with the banter. For me now, I think that political correctness has gone way too far the other way. I just think everyone loves to be offended. I'm like the least politically correct person you'll ever meet. The more inappropriate the conversation, the better for me. So, I mean, obviously that does repel a lot of people, but I just think, you know, in terms of like comedy in particular, nothing really should be out of bounds. But I think, to completely contradict that, within the workplace, clearly there needs to be boundaries, and you know, the sexual innuendo to the point where you're making people feel uncomfortable and things like that, it just absolutely shouldn't be permitted. But yeah, on the other hand, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I get it. I know we've touched on this slightly, but with hindsight, do you think it's more or less healthy to be married to a business partner? Because in some circumstances, it could probably really work. I mean, it worked for you for many years until it didn't.
Yeah, again, from my own experience, I don't think it was the fact that we were a husband and wife team. I just think it was the fact that he was a bit of a dick.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. Most companies are opposed to dating work colleagues. Do you think now it's possible to conduct a successful workplace relationship, or do you think it should be avoided, in a sense that, I suppose, with the fact that not if you're at the same level, but a boss and then a lower person or someone of such a young age, like, do you think that can work, or should it be like, oh no, in this workplace no relationships are allowed to?
I don't think you can stop it, to be honest with you. There's a lot of environments like the sales industry where it's really incestuous. When you live and breathe what you do, as I did, I was just so hugely passionate about it. Where else are you going to meet people if you spend your entire life at work? So my 2 serious relationships were, in fact, actually, again, I've never spoken about this publicly, so they were with my bosses, but I did actually date a member of my staff.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it was the only person I ever went out with that was younger than me.
Yeah. And how did that turn out?
Yeah, well, when I finished with him, it was a little bit awkward.
Yeah. That's so true. But also you wonder what everyone else thinks in the company as well,
Well,
right?
I was going to say they didn't know, but they probably did know.
Yeah.
But then
it's more exciting. It's exciting to go to work and be like, oh, I'm flirting with the boss.
Yeah, it was really. You know what? I think it was because my boss finished with me, and I think I was trying to get back at him. So I thought I'm going to go out with a member of my team.
Yeah.
But I mean, I suppose the question that you're asking, it's not just in terms of romantic relationships, because I actually hired my mum once, and that was the worst hire I've ever. I had to fire my own mum. I had to fire her.
What went wrong? Oh God.
Okay, so I wasn't a very professional manager. Let me just caveat that by saying I was very successful.
Yeah.
We used to get results, but you know, you talk about the innuendo and certain things that wouldn't be acceptable in the workplace.
Yeah.
The way I conducted myself 20 years ago, 22, 23 years ago, definitely wouldn't be acceptable in 2025. We were a sales team, and we used to do a lot of cold calling and things like that. And we used to have like the graveyard shift, which was the afternoon shift. The morning shift, not a problem.
Yeah.
Evenings, great in terms of engagement. But that afternoon shift was really, really difficult to get the results. So I came up with the ingenious idea of introducing alcohol to the shift. And whenever someone got a lead, they could do a shot.
No way.
Yeah. And
That's clever though.
Oh, it worked a treat.
Yeah.
It worked an absolute treat. So the leads were coming in thick and fast. Now, at this point, I mentioned my mum had just gone through the divorce and the bankruptcy situation.
Yeah.
So she'd actually went back to university to do a degree, business degree, and was working part-time doing telesales with me to supplement that. Afternoon shift, not a problem at all. Everyone's getting results, fantastic. The issue arose with the evening shift.
Yeah.
For the people they were working back-to-back double
shifts,
like my mum. So what started off, getting a little bit more fluid, a little bit more conversational, being a little bit more tenacious with the objection handling, quickly escalated.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting down with my mum and just saying she'd handled a particular objection incorrectly. And I was saying, I think what you would be best to do in this situation is perhaps adapt it to X, Y, Z. Don't you tell me what to do. I've been doing sales since before you were born.
Oh,
and
God,
this, that, and the other.
yeah.
And she just wouldn't listen, and she just kept back chatting me. And then she would she kept making up leads, and they weren't real leads, just so she could have shots of this tequila. And it just, it got to the point I had to sack her.
Wow.
It was carnage.
Impressed that you managed to, though, I think. Final question to finish it off. On your podcast on A Mission 2.0, you talk to guests about resilience. What lessons from those conversations have shifted how you approach love and intimacy?
Oh, how I approach loving into resilience. Well, I think still just having an open mind and not allowing what may have happened to you in the past define how you show up moving forward, and realising that every interaction that you have is unique. And, it's very easy to become jaded. I hear so many people that have been cheated on or been in a similar situation to me that really hate on men. So I think you've just got to decompartmentalize what's happened in the past and just use it as an opportunity to learn and grow, and also not to settle. Take time to assess what you liked and what you didn't like about your previous relationship, and use that to fuel you and just the standards that you set for your own life moving forward.
Absolutely.
Hopefully I'm going to be more qualified on our next podcast episode to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I might have actually been on a date.
I know, and I'm so excited. I want to hear all the details. I'm excited for scandals as well.
Me too.
We love a scandal. I've got a gift for you for coming on the show. Let me just grab it. It is an oversized tee of mine that says, "Let's do it, kinky."
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much.
So enjoy, and best of luck on a date, on all your dates. I hope there's many more. But thank you so much. This is Ellie, everyone. You've been amazing. You're incredibly talented in everything you do. And honestly, I wish you the best of luck. And I just think what you've done is amazing. And you're such a fantastic mother, and will forever continue to be.
Oh.
So well done. Thank you so much. This is Ellie, everybody. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
I have been nominated for Love Honey's Sex and Relationship Be Creative of the Year award, and I absolutely can't believe it. And hopefully I'll get lucky.
Laugh about it.
Give it to me, baby.
Learn about it. Love it or hate it. Let's do it. Under the Sheets with Tatiana Ashbourne and friends.